Now we're going to take a look at absolute value. Absolute value, simply put, is the distance a number is from 0. The thing to remember about absolute value is that since it is distance, and distance can't be negative, therefore, absolute value can't be negative. Think of it this way. If you're going to give someone directions and you say that Webb's is 2 miles away from the school, you're not going to say Webb's is -2 miles away, because that just doesn't make any sense. When you drive a car and you look at the speedometer, or you look at the odometer, you'll note that it only goes forward. Just because I put the car in reverse does not mean that I'm going negative miles. Whether I drive 5 miles forward or 5 miles backward, it's in different directions, but I still drove 5 miles. That is the hardest thing for students to kind of wrap their brains around and understand. So if you can get that, that is awesome. Let's take a look at the examples. The first example is 7, and you may think it looks like 171, but these two bars are how absolute value is represented. Probably going, hey, when am I going to see that? The answer is whenever you're doing an order of operations problem, and then the odd time you'll see it in an equation. So those bars simply mean how far away is 7 from 0? Well, if we count from 7 to get to 0, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, we had to go back 7 spots. Therefore, the absolute value of 7 is 7, because it's 7 spots away from 0. And looking at the second one, it says, what is the absolute value of -7? Sorry, it's so sloppy. Those bars, again, are not ones. They are simply just like a grouping symbol. Think of them as straight parentheses almost. They're like brackets without the little horizontal bars. So what this means is how far away is -7 from 0? Well, if we count from -7 up to 0, we go -7, -6, -5, -4, -3, -2, -1, 0. We know that -7 is still 7 spots away from 0. Even though both 7, one is positive and one is negative with 7 and -7, they are both 7 spots away from 0. They're both the same distance from 0. If you take a look at this third example, note that it does have a negative, but the negative's not inside the bars, it's outside the bars. So when we read this, we say, what is the opposite of the absolute value of 7? Or what is the opposite of how far away 7 is from 0? Well, we know from the first example that 7 is 7 away from 0. Then the opposite of that would have to be -7. Because the negative outside the bars indicate I want the negative absolute value. I want negative of the absolute value of 7, so I need the negative of 7, which is -7, the opposite of it. The last one is the most confusing by far, because it has a negative both outside and a negative inside. So we have to think to ourselves, what does this mean? We read it as, what is the negative absolute value of -7? When we look at this, we see what is the opposite, because of that negative, of how far away -7 is from 0. Well, we know that -7 is 7 away from 0, and we know that the opposite of that would have to be negative. So the negative absolute value of -7 is -7. So once again, just because the placement of the negative is important, but it's also important to note that we're just talking about distance and how far away a number is from 0.